Undoubtedly, if you've watched the news recently, you've probably heard that the United States has temporarily suspended the use of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. In this quick video, I'm going to go through what happened, what's being done about it, and ultimately, what happens next. What I hope you won't do with this information is allow the vaccine skeptics to use it as another way to try and convince you not to get the vaccines. Now, don't get me wrong, I want you to be cautious. I want you to be informed and ask lots of questions, but ultimately, I don't want you to be afraid of these vaccines. Despite what others might try to make you believe, they are still some of the safest, most effective vaccines we've ever developed. And I hope you'll stick around for the entire video, hear what I have to say, and then make your own informed decision. All right, let's get started. So, what happened? Well, unfortunately, 6 individuals who received the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine developed a very rare blood clotting disorder. Ultimately, one of these individuals died from it, one is in serious condition in the hospital, and the other 4 have recovered. It's also important to note this was only seen in women between the ages of 18 and 48, and these conditions happened between 6 and 13 days after receiving the vaccine. Now, I think it's important that we put this in perspective. This was 6 individuals out of 6.8 million doses that have been delivered in the United States alone. That's a less than 1 in a million chance of this happening. This is indeed a very rare occurrence. So, what's going to happen next? Or what are the scientists doing about this? Like I mentioned, the CDC, FDA have recommended pausing the use of the COVID-19 vaccine made by Johnson & Johnson and are going to spend some time reviewing the data to see if there is indeed a link between the vaccine and this rare condition, or if it's simply background incidents of this happening in the general population. While this is still rare, it does still happen. So it's important to know whether this was truly caused by the vaccine or it just so happened that these incidents occurred after these individuals got the vaccine. This condition is similar to what happened with the AstraZeneca vaccine in Europe. If you've been following along, you may recall that the European Union temporarily suspended the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine as well over some blood clotting concerns. They have since resumed using it, but they have put some additional conditions on use of the vaccine. Many of the countries in Europe are no longer giving the vaccine to young, healthy women because of the theoretical increased risk. That ultimately may end up what happens with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We'll just have to wait to see what the data shows us. So, the FDA, CDC, will get together, review the information, and ultimately determine whether or not it's safe to continue using the vaccine. I suspect their conclusion will be very similar to what happened with the AstraZeneca vaccine. I suspect they will determine that it's still safe because of how rare this incidence has occurred. They may indeed put a restriction that women under the age of 48 should consider alternate vaccines, or they may not. We'll have to wait and see. They may allow the use of the vaccine to start up again and simply continue to monitor. These vaccines are being scrutinized more so than any other medication or vaccine has been in the past. So there will be continued vigilance on watching for these safety signals. I think it's important that they decided to make this pause, even with how rare this condition has been, simply because we want to ensure that these vaccines are truly as safe as they seem. And we want to make sure that the public has all the confidence in the vaccines to roll up your sleeve and take it when it's your turn. So I'm fine with the CDC and FDA recommending a pause, so long as we don't allow this to be overblown and used as a way to convince people not to get the vaccine if indeed it is deemed safe to continue. So, what happens next? Like I mentioned, the scientists will review it and ultimately make a decision as to whether or not we continue to use the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I hope we do. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is one that is extremely beneficial to certain parts of the country, particularly because it's easy to store, easy to transport, and is a single shot, one and done. I know a lot of patients of mine have simply been holding off getting the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine because they were hoping to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and just have it done and over with in one shot. I still think that's going to be a possibility, but we'll have to wait and see. The other thing that I want to point out is that this has not been seen with either the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines, and we have millions and millions and millions of doses that have been delivered of those vaccines, and no significant safety signals have been seen. Now, it's very possible that that could be because the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines use a different technology. They use the messenger RNA molecule, whereas the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, as well as the AstraZeneca vaccine, use an adenovirus vector. That may be an important difference between the two if indeed this turns out to be linked to the vaccine. So what I hope you'll do, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, be cautious, be informed, but don't be afraid of the vaccines that are still available right now. Please continue to seek out the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines until the FDA and CDC ultimately decide what they're going to do with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I suspect we'll see it back on the market in just a couple of days. There may be some updates to its authorization, but I fully believe it will be back available within a few days. The last thing I want to mention is if you've gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine recently, please don't be afraid, be cautious, and if you develop a sudden severe headache, abdominal pain, or leg pain, you should probably contact your physician or seek emergency care as quickly as you can just to make sure that this isn't happening to you, especially if you're a young female. All right, I hope this helps clear up some of the misconceptions about the safety of the vaccines that you might be reading on the internet or in social media posts. I've already seen many of them myself. That's why I wanted to get this out there as quick as I could to reassure you that despite this temporary pause, these vaccines are safe, they're highly effective, and they're truly our only way out of this pandemic. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel for more videos in the future. Hit that like button for me. And, as always, be safe out there.